Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Boker Lancer. Pre-ordered this guy a long time ago when it was first kind of announced and whatnot, and it's shown up, and I've given it some time, and interesting little knife. One thing to point out is the designer of this is a big name. This is Serge Panchenko, and he is known for the Spyderco dog tag folder, the bean. He does a bunch of interesting little collaborations, so keep that in mind, and let's jump into a size comparison real quick. As always, Spyderco Delica, Ontario Rat number 1, and number 2. Hey, I'm getting it right this time. There we go. And I'll do a quick little blade length measurement because, why the heck not? Looks like a little bit more than 3 inches. A little frustrating, but hey, whatever. So let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of your Serge Panchenko Boker Lancer. So on the good side, first, actually, I'll focus on something that's not so bad, and that's the Teflon washes. I know in my disassembly video, I gave him a little crap for that, and honestly, yeah, they deserve a little crap for that. $70 Teflon, no. The thing is, the action is okay. It's not necessarily a problem. It's smooth enough, and when you've got G10 on both sides, it almost borderline makes sense. I'd still prefer phosphor bronze, but you know what? I'm not going to drag him over the coals on that one. So that's first thing. Second thing, this guy actually comes with a tool from Boker. It comes with a tool that will fit both of the screws on here, which is a nice push towards disassemblability. And it's a simple knife to take apart, so well done there, Boker. Thank you. Next thing, ergonomically speaking, this is a very, very nice knife, which is weird because it's just like a rectangle. But it's well enough done that it fills the hand nicely, and the balance on it is actually pretty nice. I like this in the hand. I think it's a fine tool if you're actually doing cutting with it, and so that's very nice. And the overall design of it, I'll say, is attractive to me. He's done a good job with, contouring things, and it's not just like a stupid rectangle. You can see there are odd details here. There's this cutout here, the fact that this is more rounded than that. I mean, you can clearly see that Serge has done some thinking here. So I like that design. The clip on this guy is pretty nice. It is just a spring little clip here, but it's got plenty of spring to it. It's got plenty of ramp, and the way that the clip is positioned, it actually works nicely in the hand, and it's not much of a hot spot. So the clip here is very well done. The G10 on it is very grippy. You can see here that it is pretty well textured, which means that this guy really isn't going anywhere in your hand, even with oilier fingers, something like that, so that's good. Lockup on this guy is solid, no real complaints there. And you can see here, although it's a very early lockup, maybe even disturbingly early, it works no problem, and it's easy to disengage. So, to me at least, that is what's good here, is get you a solid lockup, very grippy G10, a nice clip, an attractive overall design with good ergonomics and a pretty nice balance. It comes with a tool, and honestly, the Teflon doesn't bug me that much, given the overall construction here. Let's talk about what's great here. On the great side to me is the versatility of opening for this knife, because you've got a couple of different options. You can always do a two-hand open and just grab the blade out of there, and in some ways that's going to be your least intimidating option for a lot of people. Next thing is you can always use the opening hole here. It's oblong, so it's not nearly as nice as the round, but I understand that that's got legal implications, so, hey, whatever. But that works just fine. And then finally, you can use the top little ridge here as a front flipper of sorts and pop it out that way, which gives you a very quick opening mechanism. And you can also do it much more slowly and kind of just pop it around and then use your thumb. But look, I like the versatility that this affords you. You can do a very, very quick one-handed open via front flipping. You can do a slower one-hand open with the opening hole, and you can go two-handed, no problem. And so that's great to me, and it's a little bit different, and it's a little interesting. Many knives don't even offer one decent way to open them up. It's a judgment, I suppose, but this guy offers a couple, so that's nice. Let's talk about what's bad here. Okay, so first off, big missed opportunity here. This is the Serge Panchenko Lancer. Boker has completely neglected to name this knife the Serge Lancer lot, and that disappoints me greatly. Come on, Boker, get with the program. Moving on. Next thing, I do not love the acid wash on this knife. I mean, you can see here that the entire blade has been acid treated to some extent. I mean, you can get, you see a little reflectivity still on the edge. To me, I hate acid washes. They're ugly as sin to me. That's a personal thing, though. For you may love them, so hey, whatever. But to me, at least, that's bad. For me, it's ugly as heck. But whatever, it's beside the point. Next thing, the lock on this guy is weirdly sticky. I mean, listen. Every damn time I open and close this knife, there is that sticker tube. and it's strong and it's there despite using it for a little while. It's not a problem. It's not like, oh my god, difficult lock stick, and in some ways it may provide positive engagement, but it is a little strange. It's not something I'm used to feeling on liner locks, and so I'm getting used to that still. Next thing, unfortunately, the detent on this guy, so I mentioned you can open it in a couple of ways. The detent is really optimized, I think, for using the thumb's hole on it. And so it's a very smooth opener in that way. But what this means is with the front flipper, you really, really, really do need to do a lot of wrist to it in order for it to pop out there. Because the detent is just not strong enough for front flipping. And so as a result, you end up with a kind of jack of all trades, master of none, where the detent is not quite there for the front flipping that is in some ways a key feature for a lot of people. And so you can do it, absolutely, but I find myself using a lot of preloading on the tab and a lot of wrist and whatnot. Not a great thing. Then, next thing, this guy came pretty thick behind the edge. I mean, if we look at the sharpening choil there, ay. It's not the end of any worlds particularly, and they did include a nice sharpening choil, which I think I might have forgotten to give credit to. But anyways, but the thing is, it's not really that well made to cut. The stock isn't all that thick. It's just this very low grind here, and they just didn't grind it very aggressively. And so, unfortunately, it's just not a knife that cuts super well, and that's even more true because, unfortunately, this knife came pretty dull. Relative to a lot of factory knives, this was way duller than the norm, and that doesn't bring me a lot of joy. You get a knife out of the package, it should cut 100%. And so to get a dull knife blade alongside that thick edge geometry just didn't bring me joy. And then finally on the blade, Boker did something a little weird for this, in that the first 500 they announced of this knife would be done in S35VN, which is a great steel, and the remainder would be done in 440C, which is a fine steel, I guess. It's not a great steel, but, it'll do. It'll work for everyday carry. Thing is, I did a pre-order very early on, figuring, okay, great, I'll get the S35VN batch, and I'll be happy. Problem is, apparently I wasn't early enough, and so when I got mine, I had lost the lottery, so to speak, and so I bought a knife. I pre-ordered it very specifically, hoping that I would be able to pick up one of those first 500, and then it wasn't, and that's honestly not a great feeling, because a price that I paid for this guy in S35VN is a very different price than what I'd want to pay in 440. And so I feel like for those sorts of arrangements to work, where it's like we're going to upgrade the steel in the first hand, it needs to be a great deal at both levels. And then, if you get the upgrade, it's like, oh my God, screaming deal. It needs to be a lottery that, doesn't feel so bad when you lose it. Because to me, this just kind of felt like weird gambling. And certainly, I shouldn't have assumed that I would, get that. But that wasn't a great experience, and honestly, I would have preferred if the price were just lower overall, and obviously, and they just did 440C throughout the whole lineup, or, they just kept it with S35VN at the current whatever. But either way, that was not a great experience. I'm okay with makers doing things like that as an incentive for early purchases, but the way that they did it there, where you just don't know what steel you're getting, it felt like an ugly gamble, and it's something I'd rather not see catch on. But that's kind of maybe more on me and my own emotions. But to me, that's what's bad about this guy, is I didn't love the whole S35VN 440C lottery, mostly because I lost it. The knife came very dull. It's very thick behind the edge. The detent is a little bit weak for front flipping, although you can make it work. It's got some lock stick, and this acid wash is just ugly as sin to me. But let's talk about what else is ugly. Look, to me, what's ugly about this knife 100% is the price point, because this comes in at $70 according to Boker, and that's not feeling great, because what you got here are 2 chunks of G10, 1 chunk of 440C steel, which, like I said, is okay. It's a fine steel, I guess. 2 Teflon washes, a lock bar, and a clip that's, fine, it works. But to me, that doesn't add up to $70. If the steel were upgraded like it initially was, then yeah, that felt okay. And in fact, like I said, that's what I thought I was going to be getting by doing the pre-order. But alas, I did not. And so this felt competitively priced, but then when I opened the box and saw the steel, it's like, oh, the value is just fluttering away. And that was pretty ugly, because this just doesn't feel like a very good value. I mean, seriously, look at what $70 gets you from other companies. Get you the Spyderco Delica. Great knife, much better construction overall, although the steel is maybe actually a little less than on the 440, depending how they've done the heat treat here. And then, like, the steel wheel cut jack is a better knife in every single away, except that it's, well, actually half the price of the Lancer. So, I mean, that's even like the Rat 1. I mean, seriously. So, I just don't see $70 here. This doesn't make sense to me. Maybe at S35 it did, but when they downgrade the steel, no. No way. So, there you go. That's the uglies, that this is just priced way too high, in my opinion. Let's talk final conclusion here. Okay, so look, final conclusion. At some level, I will admit, I may be biased by the kind of negative experience I had with that pre-order lottery thing I discussed. Because if I knew that this was going to be a 440C knife when I got out of the box, I never would have ordered it. I would not have paid that price 100%. That doesn't work for me, and it wouldn't have even been on my radar. But, you know, the fact that I thought I was getting better and then ended up not getting better because I wasn't pre-ordered enough, ugly, ugly, ugly. But anyways, if I try and put that aside, if I try and put the negativity of that experience of losing the Boker lottery here aside, I kind of come to the conclusion that the knife is okay. I mean, it's not great, it's not good, it's not bad, it's not ugly, it's okay. I mean, it is functional once you sharpen it up, and there are some nice design elements, and I do love the idea of it very much. But unfortunately, it's got enough small little issues to kind of flay my enthusiasm, and on top of that, it is a very simply made knife with downright cheap materials and a disappointingly high price. And so, to me, it's a wash. It's a complete wash. So if you're in love with the design, if you love Serge's work and you want something like this, you want the versatility, you want some aspect of what this is selling, then sure, I guess you can pick one of these guys up. But if you're not in love with it for some strange reason, I would just not give this guy a second Lance. But anyways, I hope this has been interesting to you and that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of the day. For Serge. That didn't even make sense. It was like, for sure. Okay. Bye now.